I'm Alex. I do tool reviews, tips, and how-to videos. Today we're working on this crown pour on this chimney. It's had a very light crown pour put on it. As you can see, it's popping off really easy. Whenever you're building on anything, you want a solid foundation. That being said, you have to get all this loose stuff off. What good is the new crown pour if it's on this crap? Use your hammer, use a pry bar, whatever it takes, you can tell to solid. If it pops free, it's no good. If it stays, by all means, leave it there. This bucket's half filled with the remains of the last crown pour that was put on here. I always like to dampen my surface before applying any concrete or mortar to it. That helps adhere and bond to the surface and keep the dust levels down. There are products available on the market. You get them at your big box stores for this exact purpose. But a mason taught me this trick and I've been using it for years. Whenever I do a crown pour, ideally I want to have a substantial crown pour and I want a nice dome. Minimal, it has to be 3/4 of an inch down to nothing. Ideally I want the biggest crown pour I can get. Under these slate caps or slabs, I don't have to worry about pitch and roll and too much extreme doming. To me, these brick pillars are more important to keep the water away from them than anything, as it's not going to see much weather or rain. It's going to get more sweat from condensation in the wintertime from the chimney running. Sorry about the length of this video. At any point, please feel free to fast forward. I know it's boring and slow. This is an important part of this video that I want to strive to people. I'm on a relatively roof, but new or old, if it's not getting replaced soon, I put felt paper over it. Ideally, I like to put felt paper on the roof deck and slightly up the chimney if you can. Yes, you can bring a hose up, and in my experience, even if you hose the mortar down, there will always be a stain there. It's just cheap preventative maintenance. I don't like using tarps because tarps could be slippery. A drop cloth will work great. I don't penetrate the roof. But as you can see, no matter how careful you're going to get, you try to be, there's always going to be something that falls or plops down. I like to do a wetter consistency on my crown pours. I don't want it to dry too fast. I want it to stick real well. A good mortar mix, if you were to mix it, stick your trowel in there, pick it up. It's hard to shake the mortar off of it. You don't need fancy trowels. This spackle knife I'm using right now, believe it or not, I got it at Harbor Freight. I think it's 6 inches wide. It cost me $5. In a situation like this, a float or a traditional trowel is not going to help me. Between the 3 flues and all these pillars, I do roof repairs primarily, so I like using a regular Nord trowel. It's a rounded tip trowel. In many ways, it's a lot like putting icing on a cake. You want to make sure you have a damp surface, smoothing it out. I like to agitate it, chop it up a little bit to make sure that it sticks and it adheres to it. Excuse me. And if you have a big glob in one section, by all means, transfer it, move it around. It has a really long set time. There are products that you can mix in your mortar and make it stronger. I don't use them too often. If it dries faster than you like, you could get hairline cracking, but I put the crown pour on so thick, it's almost superficial cracks. What you're seeing right here is me moving the product. I kind of do that shaky motion. I try to smoothen it out as I go along, but a wet trail is the best to do it with. If you have a spray bottle or a bucket of fresh water, dip your trowel in the fresh water and it'll help smoothen it out. If you're working on a hot day, try to keep your mortar damp. Spray it with a little extra water. I literally like using a water bottle with a hole in the cap. This way I don't have to worry about it rolling off the roof or causing any damage. I use it, it's one and done. If it gets messy, I throw it away. I get a soda out of the deal. It's a pretty sweet deal. Here I'm feathering out the edges. I want it to have a substantial edge, but not be, too messy. Another weird topic is, do you mark your mortar, your crown pour? I don't tend to do that. Um, all the crown pours I've done, and I do quite a few of them throughout a year. Only one time I felt the need on a humongous chimney. I put my initials in it. Uh, Other than that, I tend not to do that. That's a personal decision. I know a lot of people like to put their initials and their date in there, or their mark. That's not really my cup of tea. I don't want water sitting behind these pillars, so I kind of hump them up and position it where the water will flow away from it. I don't really have a lot of room to work with in here, as you could see. This is quite difficult from a normal open chimney. I mix half buckets of mortar at a clip. Luckily for me, it's a pretty hot day, which ideally you don't want to be doing this in a hot day. But since the slab is covering everything, it's keeping it shaded. And my mix is so moist and damp, I don't have to worry about it drying out prematurely. I just have to go around with my water bottle and saturate the old cap. This is a prime example of a good job. I like using a brush sometimes. I'll dampen a brush or I'll bring a brush up with me or sponge to keep that water and that mortar from rolling off the edge. If you ever did any soldering before, you know that solder only sticks to wherever you flux. If there's no flux on there, it won't stick. It'll just flake off. Mortar is very similar to that. It'll only stick to what's wet. So if you can control the dampness on the old ground floor, you can control the mess that it makes. I do have a couple runoffs on this chimney, but it is getting painted with a masonry paint. It's way too hot today to do that. Tomorrow's supposed to be cooler. I believe it's supposed to be in the 40s or 50s, so that'll definitely be a better time to do it. For the size of this chimney, I grabbed two 60-pound bags of mortar, and I believe I had less than a quarter of a bag left. And even though I put a healthy crown pour on it, it's not outrageous. This might seem outrageous to some people, but it's really not. It is a pretty decent sized chimney. Normally chimneys 20 inches wide, 24 inches by 3 feet, so 2 by 3, or You know, 18 by 18 for a single flue. But yeah, it's not that bad. You know, if you have a little bit of common sense, prepare your surface area around you, put the felt paper down, put your drop cloths down. I prefer felt paper because it is it's water resistant, borderline waterproof, so I don't have to worry about it bleeding through the product and staining the roofing. I don't have to worry about a hose up there. I just let it dry up. When I'm done, I carefully pull up my felt paper, fold it up, bring it down the roof. I wouldn't throw it off the roof because it might make a mess of the lawn. Put it in a can or a trash bag and away you go. Okay, here's the final results. It's not the beautifulest crown pour, and chimney has to be painted, but it looks good. I hope this encourages somebody into giving it a try. It's not a difficult experience, and it's fun to do. By all means, have a good time with it. Slap your handprint in there. Put your sign on it. Whatever you feel like doing. Have a good day. See you next time.